As the energy crisis escalates, natural gas prices are 4 times higher than last winter, and inflation is at a record high of double digits. The EU is still struggling to find common grounds. Is there a way to escape this situation? To discuss this, I'm joined here in Luxembourg by the Deputy Prime Minister of Spain, Nadia Calviño. So, Minister, the war in Ukraine has had a dramatic impact on the energy situation in Europe with a spillover effect on our economies. How bad is the situation?
Well, obviously, we're all affected by the war at the door of Europe, at the doorstep of our countries, also by the energy blackmail by Putin. But the degree of effect is very different between the different countries. So you have some economies, such as the German economies, Baltic countries, also those neighboring Ukraine, that are most directly affected, and luckily some other countries, such as the Spanish economy, which is suffering less in the sense that we are less reliant on oil and gas from Russia, and we're also less affected by the risks derived from the current situation.
But when it comes to the EU response to this crisis, there is a lot of criticism aimed at the EU for not managing to address the high prices of imported gas in Europe. So, do you feel that the EU has failed so far to rise to the occasion?
I wish we would have acted before, but better late than never. We're very supportive of the Commission taking decisive action now, and we are very supportive of price caps, of joint purchases, taking also the example of the Iberian mechanism with the gas top price, which is a price cap, which is, I think, proving to be extremely effective to contain prices and limit or pamper the impact on citizens and companies.
But while the EU is trying to find a pan-European solution, we see that Germany's government has said that it's ready to spend up to 200 billion euros to help consumers and businesses cope with rising energy prices. Do you think that this really undermines a pan-European approach for the energy crisis?
Like we did with the pandemic, I think we have to respond on the basis of 3 principles. That's unity, determination, and solidarity. They proved to be the right ones when we were confronted with the pandemic, which was a global challenge. And now, when we are facing another challenge that goes beyond the national boundaries, I think we should act united, and we should find ways to respond in a manner which is as effective as possible. Having said that, we have to take account of the fact that the impact is different in the different countries. And this also shows that we need to have appropriate flexibility within our rules to cater for the differences between the different economies and the challenges that we're confronted with.
So, do you understand what Germany did, or you feel a bit frustrated because it acts alone when it comes to the management of this crisis?
I sympathize very much with the fact that we're all confronted with how to contain prices and support our citizens and companies in our countries. And the situation is very different in, for example, Germany and Spain. Just to give you a couple of numbers, in Spain we see very strong growth. Actually, current data lead us to review upwards our forecast of growth for this year to 4.4%. But that doesn't mean that we do not have to take important measures with an important fiscal impact in our country to support citizens and to support companies. So we are all confronted with the same challenge, how to continue to support our societies and to minimize the negative impact of Putin's energy blackmail, whilst ensuring the reduction of deficit and debt, and so preserving fiscal responsibility.
So does Germany work in this basis that you just described, the basis of solidarity?
During the pandemic, we saw a strong solidarity coming from Germany, and this is extremely important to countries such as Spain, which was very directly impacted by the pandemic.
Is this the case with the energy crisis?
Well, I see a clear parallelism to a symmetry, I would say, in the sense that we were supported by the EU when the Spanish economy was directly hit by the pandemic. And now we are also signaling our strong solidarity with those countries that are most directly affected by the blackmail and by the risks and challenges derived from the aggression against Ukraine.
So is it a time to set up an instrument similar to the one we did with the pandemic, the SURE mechanism, in order to cope with this crisis as well?
We need to see what instruments are available already in the European budget, plus the recovery plans, which are very important financing sources, which can contribute, which have a very significant counter-cyclical impact and can allow us to undertake investments and reforms with a structural nature. We need to take profit and seize the opportunity of the recovery plans so as to maximize the potential impact on growth at national level, but most importantly, on growth at the European level, of course.
But you know, Minister, figures released recently are very discouraging. And what I'm saying is that inflation has reached a high record of 10%. We've seen that a rise of energy prices of 40.8% year on year, followed by food. So what should be done?
We see that this is basically an inflation which is imported into the EU, and it is due to the high energy prices and other raw materials, as you were mentioning, and the depreciation of the euro, of course. So we should, as soon as possible, stop this inflation to being imported into the EU and the Eurozone, and try to contain energy prices. And that's why we strongly support proposals coming from the Commission, and we would urge, for fast action, urgent action, to update the regulatory framework, to impose gas price caps, or in any case change the reference to the TTF, which is proving to be prone to speculation and high price increases, and find an appropriate framework in order to ensure that prices in Europe stop their increase as soon as possible.
And my last question, Minister, do you fear that all these challenges and uncertainties ahead could really fuel social unrest across the EU?
Well, this is a challenge we have to bear in mind constantly, of course. European citizens, all of us, we have suffered very tough times, a very tough scenario for the last 3 years since the pandemic hit us. In the case of Spain, we also had a volcano eruption in the middle, and then came the war and inflation and energy price increases, which are affecting all citizens and households and companies in Europe. That is why we need to be extremely careful and responsible at this point in time to take the right measures, support our citizens, but without losing sight of the need to ensure fiscal consolidation and financial stability in the Eurozone and in the EU as a whole.
I guess it's a hard task to follow, but thank you very much for your time in this interview.
Thanks to you. Pleasure to be with you today.